You're listening to Being Built. I'm Aaron Davis, the host and the founder of Reliant Search Group, here with Mike Phillips, the VP of IT at the Wright-Patt Credit Union.
Right.
We began talking a second ago about you deciding that Dayton, Ohio was home,
Yep.
and it had something to do with your being stationed at Wright-Patt
Yeah.
Air Force Base.
Yeah. So great to be here. Thank you. It was a unique environment. 14 moves over 31 years. My kids went to 8 different schools in their time. So we spent a year here in 2006 to 2007 getting my master's degree.
Okay.
Met some people locally. The babysitter that was our kids' babysitter at the time is now like my oldest daughter. She's got 2 of her own kids, lives a couple miles from us. They can swim
nice.
in the backyard. So when it came the end of the time and it was time to hang up the uniform, begrudgingly, somewhat, obviously, because you can never really hang it up, it came down to where we're going to stay.
This felt like the most like home, huh?
The dream was always Colorado. I'm not going to lie to you.
Really?
That was going into it was always
I
going to
did
be
like
Colorado.
Colorado. I've been there to visit a couple times.
And I even took her out a couple months ago. I took her up into the mountains for a vacation just so she could see it in the summertime. Her impression of Colorado was snow. I'm like, no, it's a lot more than that. But this became, as the deputy commander on base, I had a lot of interaction with the community, and I got a chance to meet with the civic leaders, the mayors, meet with the judges in town, to get an opportunity to really get a feel for why Wright-Patt was so important to this community and why this community was so important to Wright-Patt. So it was kind of an easier decision.
Yeah, because you were kind of ingrained in it.
Yeah, we like the community. We like the people. It's a great place to live. And it gave us an opportunity to get back into the community. And frankly, after moving off base, that was pretty important to me. It's mentally just you're ripping yourself apart from the military. So finding a place where you can get back involved was pretty cool.
I'm a transplant here too. I grew up in San Diego actually, and I don't think there's of all the places I've visited and heard about, I feel like Dayton, Ohio is the best place on the planet. Love it here.
I wish they had more nonstop flights in, but that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's some like small town or small city limitations, but that also kind of brings a lot of the advantages too. Like you don't get stuck in traffic out here too often. You know what I mean?
Cost of living's a lot better than DC when I was stationed there.
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's kind of growing too. There's a couple of big things happening in town that could make the price of your real estate go up. You know, I hope. We'll see. So you, where were you originally from?
Originally from Boston.
Okay, so you grew up in the Northeast.
I can pack the can, have it yad. I
Wait, what'd you say?
My wife's from Mississippi.
Captions.
Yeah, you might need the subtitle on that one, right? But my wife's from Mississippi, so neither one of us were going to end up going back home. So it was kind of unique to get a chance to see.
Did you guys meet somewhere you were stationed at some point?
My first real assignment after college was in Columbus, Mississippi.
Okay.
There's a Garfield's and an Applebee's, and that's about it in Columbus, Mississippi.
I worked at Garfield's in college. It's a small world.
So
they still exist?
Yeah, apparently. But I got real good at my job, and my best friend was the public affairs officer, and he was giving a tour to a bunch of girls from Mississippi State.
Yeah.
The rest is history.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
How many kids do you guys have?
2 kids. So I got a soon-to-be 25-year-old. Colin graduated Illinois Tech last year. He's an architect.
Okay.
But he's a unique architect. He got the bite.
Tell me he builds data centers.
No, I wish. Sorry.
I'm working with a client on that search.
Just the opposite. He builds fun stuff. Data centers aren't. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
He builds theme parks.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So he just finished up a project for Dollywood and is moving on to the next one that's super secret. He can't tell us about.
Okay.
He's down in Florida now and enjoying life.
I'm going to have to get this bug at some point.
Thank you.
it's swarming around me.
He left me to go to you.
If I get a chance, I'm going to catch him. But like I said, Emerson can edit, so feel free to.
Thanks, Emerson.
Just don't smack the camera.
Yep. And then I got a soon-to-be 21-year-old daughter. She's going into her senior year at Miami.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
She decided what she's going to do yet?
Yeah. So, like I said, 8 different schools in her 18 years growing up. She wanted to go into psychology.
Okay, that's fun.
She has a huge appreciation for the military family counselors that were part of each one of the schools she was in.
Interesting.
So she wants to give back, which is pretty cool.
Had a great chat the other day with a woman who does consulting in workplace mental health, and kind of sounds to me, as I understand what she does, is kind of analyzes and applies some practical things to the implications of work on mental health and the implications of mental health on the person's work, and tries to consult in a productive way for them. And I thought that was really interesting. There's so much opportunity, I think, in that, not just in like productivity, but just joy in life.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of what we do. Part of why I was excited to chat with you is your what I heard in our brief conversation previously about kind of your philosophy about leadership and such. And I feel like we spend a lot of years of our life, a lot of hours of our day in work, and a lot of it sucks, man. Like I don't know how else to say. I'm like trying to find some intellectual
Don't
way to say it.
sugarcoat it.
A lot of it sucks.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, okay, we're out of the coal mines, or we're not slaves anymore, or whatever used to be kind of the working class,
Yep.
whatever middle class, whatever quality of life when it came to work. But like still, people are reporting in this very hierarchical fashion to a tyrant, and that sucks. I don't know that there's any consultation you can give somebody to solve that problem. Anyway, I like the idea of working in psychology and that being part of schools, particularly for kids who are moving around.
It's who she is, and she's a product of that system, good or bad. I told her 18 years living with me, she's more than qualified to be a mental health counselor. So,
your daughter's story kind of made me think of how your own, like, who helped you or served you or whatever impacts you. And my first job was a state funded job in California. And it was subsidized or funded by a program called the MAC Project. And it was for kids that were part of households that were broke or whatever. I think we had some aid of some sort that made us kind of qualified us. Waiting for the pounding to stop.
Get the bass going in the background.
I was telling you about the program that subsidized my first job. And so I was literally a janitor at a junior high school. I scraped gum off sidewalks and emptied trash cans and all that fun stuff. And the program was, the wages were augmented or supplemented by a MAC program or what. And it was great because it made it easy for that employer to employ somebody who maybe I didn't have the best presentation, communication. I didn't know how to get a job really. And they didn't care because I was next to free. Yeah. You know what I mean? And but that was a great program.
But what'd you get out of that? You got work ethic out of that.
That's right. I got work ethic, which was the intent of the program. Yep. It's like, okay, these kids are poor, but they're not like incapable of anything. Yeah. But I also learned through that experience, Mike, how valuable it is just to have somebody in the process with you that can help connect you to the right opportunity. And I think that might have fueled a little bit of the energy that I get out of the work I do, hiring people. And anyway, so it's fun sometimes to reflect on your roots and like, where did you get addicted to that problem?
Yeah.
Anyway,
sometimes it's a fork in the road too, right? Because you can either keep going down a path where you're not really going to accomplish much in life and you're not paying attention to those folks that are trying to help you, or you get on the fast train and suddenly everything they say you're listening to because it makes sense and it helps you go just a little bit further and it resonates. And somehow at that point, you're driving the trains eventually instead of just being on it.
How did you get into IT? Technology work?
So truth in advertising, I didn't want to.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. So I went to the Air Force Academy, wanted to be a pilot.
Okay.
And in the early 90s, they had too many pilots. Okay. So out of the 1,000 or so of us that graduated, 200 went to pilot training and the rest go find a career field. And I had taken a comp sci class and a double E class. So I was qualified to be a communications officer in the Air Force.
A couple of classes, huh? Interesting.
Yeah. It's not that way anymore. They've gotten a lot more restrictive. But
sure.
So my assumption was I was going to do 5 years and be out. Mm-hmm. So like I said, I got that assignment to Mississippi. The master sergeant that worked for me day one told me he's got more time in the chow hall line than I've got on the planet, and he probably wasn't too far off. But I had a great chief, talk about the mentors and stuff. So this was a guy who'd been around the Air Force for 20 plus years. Older than more time in the Air Force than I was born at that point.
Yeah,
and he saw something in me, and I just literally anything he wanted to do, I wanted to learn. I was a sponge. I wanted to, what would Matt do? What would Matt do? So, every day he'd come in the office just like this and he'd close the door and we'd sit there and talk back and forth across the desk. And then he'd go out and he would let me do all the talking and he'd stand off just to the side behind me because he was trying to present me as the leader.
Yeah.
One day I did something really bad and I could feel him on my back as I was walking back into the office, and you kind of got that sense of, oh crap, what happened?
Really?
And he called me by my first name for the first and last time ever. And he said, you really that up. And we sat down. I'm like, okay, how are we going to fix this? He goes, that's the right answer. So
really?
Yeah, you get
so he
that
gave
person.
You some room. That's good.
Let people fail. Sometimes you've got to give them a little bit of rope and let them stumble. I mean, you don't want them to harm people. You don't want them to cost somebody their life or their living or anything, but you got to let them lean forward and make some decisions on their own.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're just a puppet.
Yeah, that's true. I'm reflecting on my own leadership and how much space I give folks to fail. And if there's if there's anything I could do better, it's just not to teach so much and to just kind of give direction and resources and let people experiment.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of a hands-on learner. I enjoy jumping and flailing about and figuring out how to get to the shore, right? Like I don't necessarily want to learn the lessons, right? I like to. Somebody asked me the other day, like, "Have you taken any golf lessons?" I'm like, "No, I just want to stay out here and suck for like another year, and then I'll think about that." But I don't know. The failing is really important, I think, to really getting it sometimes.
A little bit of YouTube in the background checking.
I'm not kidding. I'm not getting sucked into it, man. Don't tempt it. I know once I start watching YouTube videos about golf, I'll never get out. So. But yeah, that's good. Thank you for showing up here today. You just made me money, man. You just made me a better leader, I think. I think giving people a little more room to fail is important. It's risky though when you're running an operation that matters.
It's risk. That's a great segue. I read a blog for my team every week, and every week it's a different topic of something we're going on. And today it was all about taking a leap, and the leap that I'm talking about was trust. And sometimes we had a couple promotions that were going on, people that we've grown internally, which is probably the biggest goal I've got in the job I'm in right now. Is they brought me in from the outside. My job was, how do I keep growing talent from the inside? How do I make sure that these people are given opportunities to learn and grow? And sometimes it's just that you let them fail, you let them fail forward, ideally. So today's blog was all about that leap of faith, which is, the paradox of trust, right? You can't get it and see if it works until you give it and see if it works. So you've got to have that little bit of faith in somebody that you see in them and say, how do I, this capitalize on just this little hint of passion or, talent or something that I see in them, and give them a little bit and let them show you that they can run with it.
What's the line for you when the failure is too significant? Like what kind, I guess the question I'm trying to get at here is, what kind of failure is a failure you won't live with, that you won't accept?
So I'll take the easy way out and say it's situationally dependent.
In
the old life, if you're going to cause something that prevents us from supporting, the soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, Coast Guardsman, Guardian, whatever you want to call them these days, that was a line. You had to, we were doing a job it was a warfighting job. So that's why you do training, right? You play like you fight. So you'd give them that opportunity to fail in the play environment, the test environment. I'm a big fan, especially in the IT world, of having that dev environment. Give me a sandbox. Let them get in there and break stuff till the day's over. But when we're talking my current role, we're an almost $10 billion credit union. We have members that are reliant on us for security and access to their money. And if you fail
you have
forward,
a sensitive customer base, right?
Exactly, very sensitive.
Their experience is
I'm a member too, so it's my
money.
I am
too, actually.
So if you're gonna do something that jeopardizes the security and access to their money, that's where I'm gonna draw the line.
Okay. Security and access. Interesting. Yeah. Well, not everybody does work. Can I challenge you a little bit, or just qualify and dig in?
Right? Yeah.
Not that the nature of everybody's job doesn't directly impact security and access to money. Some of it's indirect, or there's safeguards just in terms of the work that they do, the nature of their job, right? So that's a good line, though. It's mission impact, right? At the end of the day,
and to me, not to disagree too much, but I've been taking that approach of everything my team's doing is impacting that. Yeah. And the reason I'm doing it is
direct. It's some degree removed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not like,
but it's all impacting.
They're not the teller that's, counting out the fives and handing them to you when we make a withdrawal. But I need them to get away from the patching firewalls and building servers, because that doesn't resonate with the rest of the teams outside of IT. You need to equate what you're doing to the mission, because then when you do fail forward, you get a little bit of that understanding from the team of, I was trying to do this because it's better for the member, it's better for the partner. So it's one of those things where you try and equate what you're doing to the mission writ large, vice just the mission of IT. And that's been my entire career the hardest thing. We talk in acronyms. We change those acronyms every 3 years. We geek out as best we can, and we have people in the back that kind of roll their eyes back and go, I just do what you guys like to do in IT, and I don't understand.
It really is tough, I think, in a large organization or a bigger team, to keep everything connected to the end customer, because like mentally your day doesn't, a lot of the tasks that you do just don't make room for that consideration or that alignment. The bigger you get, the more specific a function is.
Exactly.
The more isolated somebody feels from the mission. That's interesting in the technology world, that is kind of a job, right? To continually refresh that map.
I take some of my IT partners out to member centers
Do you?
and literally have them talk with the tellers and talk with the the folks that are sitting there one on one across the table with some of our members and say, what pain points do you have? This is what I work on. How does that influence how you're dealing with the members? And I think that's important because if you're just coming to work and your hands on keyboard every day and then you go home and you don't understand the impact that you're having on somebody's life, you're not going to have that passion for doing the job. It's a paycheck at that point.
You mentioned Matt.
Mm-hmm.
A great anecdote there, experience that you had with a leader that sounds like had a positive influence on you.
Huge.
Dial back a little younger. Like who, when you think of yourself as a young person, I'll let you qualify what that means.
That was too many years ago to remember.
Pre-gray in our beards,
yeah,
like.
Thanks for pointing that out. Emerson, can you
we do wear them right on our face, yeah. So I don't think we're hiding it, right? Yeah. But when you were young, who do you think influenced the way? Who comes to mind? I guess when you think about the way that you work, the way that you lead. Any early mentors and influences? Just curious about going back a couple of decades.
So you go back a couple of decades. I'd say prior to going to the academy and joining the Air Force, small town. I had a couple of guidance counselors that saw something in me. It was always that I wanted to be a pilot, sort of deal. So they encouraged and pushed, and I was the first kid in my school to apply to the Air Force Academy, and all they knew was West Point. Like, okay, well, don't you want to go to West Point? I'm like, no, they don't fly airplanes. I want to.
Yeah, okay.
So I had a couple of them along the way. Some of the teachers that really saw the passion in what I wanted to do, and more so, Eagle Scout. My son's an Eagle Scout, so scouting was always one of those things that pushed me. So if you talk work ethic, it's the scout leaders that influenced me and made me, even when I was down and wanting to get out of something, it was the push a little bit harder. You can do this, and then it's kind of strange the rank structure because you're 12 to 16 years old and suddenly you're in charge of a bunch of 12 to 16-year-olds.
Yeah,
that can go to your head really quick, or it can teach you some life lessons that you take with you later on. And I think that was the impact before I got to the Air Force was, getting into the academy, taking me out of the small town, and suddenly, you're at the top of your class in high school, and suddenly you're with 1,100 other folks that are at the top of their class, and you're trying to figure out where you fit and who you are. Listen to the accents for that kid from Mississippi that you couldn't understand, and then you go and marry a girl from Mississippi. So, yeah.
I was thinking about what you just said about now all of a sudden you're responsible for people that maybe have more influence, power, authority, and other kinds of authority. My first experience with that, I guess it was in college. I worked in a kitchen, and I was a college student, and I had a couple of 40-year-old men. I was like the line cook or whatever at a restaurant.
Yep.
And in that shift, in a given shift, I wasn't their manager, but in a given shift, I was kind of like the lead in the kitchen. And that was I learned how to do all those jobs that I did, and they moved me around quick, and all of those guys trained me. A couple of guys that were young like me, and then a couple of guys who were, one I think was an older guy, had a criminal record, but like he was no dummy. He just had a criminal record and
made some mistakes.
Yeah, that's right. But he was perfectly capable of running that kitchen that night, and he trained me. Next thing you know, like I'm in charge on a Friday, Saturday night of this guy and another career restaurant guy, and I was terrified of that. Really? I was absolutely terrified. Not because one guy was kind of mean and terrifying. The other guy was nice, but they were neither one of them a threat to me. They were just more mature than me. They were grown men. Like I was a barely grown man, right? And what an intimidating, terrifying thing to be leading people who are genuinely more competent in the tech, right? Like this guy could run the grill better than me. I'm leading them when 2 nights before they had been training me or telling me a trick or whatever. And it was just the beginning of doing that over and over again.
And that's the important part, right? Is you never want to ask somebody to do something if you don't understand what you're asking them to do. You don't have to be the most proficient on it. I had a job over in Germany where I had guys climbing towers for a living. And I had a kid who was a monkey. He go up that tower in a heartbeat.
Really?
So I went on a job with them, and an hour later, I'm hand over hand, still crawling
like
up that
3
thing,
points of contact.
Latched on, exactly. But the fact that I went out with them was something that they, to this day, still talk about because it was a huge tower, and they're like, "We can't believe you climbed that tower with us."
Yeah, so you're just some suit. You can't do this, right? But you could.
Yeah, I'm not as fast as them, but yeah.
Yeah, I still. I guess multiple times now since then, I've had to lead people with a greater level of competence. And I think the more sophisticated all of our workplaces get, the more common that is. But I like the idea. I like your idea because I've been kicking that around back and forth. Like, should you be an expert in a thing that you're leading, or should you just be a good people leader? But I like the line you drew. You should understand what you're asking of somebody,
Yeah.
and that requires not an expertise, but you have to have at least enough depth to have perspective, right?
Especially in the IT world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the technology changes so damn fast that you're bringing in kids. I just hired a kid who was an intern for me for 2 years and then right out of Wright State and is now working for us. And literally the first day we start throwing work at him because he had proven himself through the internship, but he was going to be able to install this stuff a heck of a lot better than I ever could because he had been working on it as an intern and understood it a lot better. I might understand the impact of what it's doing for the credit union, but there was no way I was going to rack this component, wire it all up, and configure it. It's just those days are long since gone.
Yeah. You mentioned the intern, and the question that came to mind is, dude, I learned so much in this podcast. This is such a cheat that I host this podcast because I just repeatedly interview people that give me ideas how to run my business.
Then you share them, right? So
that's
other
true.
people can catch those ideas.
That is true. But I'm so selfish right now. I'm just thinking about myself, Mike. You mentioned the intern, and it made me think about how long a typical stay is for somebody in a the average job duration is just so much shorter now than it was before. So now every investment into young or junior level or kind of lower level of skill sets or lower level of impact on the business, it's riskier because the likelihood that they're going to be there for 7, 8, 10 years or whatever is lower, right?
But I mean,
so how do you deal with that?
Well, when I was my first real leadership command job, we had a bunch of brand new lieutenants working for us in the squadron. Actually, it was 2 squadrons side by side, so we had a group, and it was like 16 lieutenants. And we pushed back then for a rotation program. They would spend 6 months in a job, and then they'd rotate into the next one. Okay. Because I knew that was going to expose them to what they needed to see, so that it might be 5 to 10 years later on down the road, they might be the commander of that unit, and they might have the opportunity to have seen all that stuff instead of just one niche area. So if you're a telephone maintenance guy, and that's all you ever see, that's all you ever know. But if you're working in the network, or you're working in the planning shop, or maybe you're working with the civil engineers doing all the backup power and battery power and everything, you get the appreciation for how those areas support each other. And that's really, we talked earlier, my focus has always been on the team piece. If you can't build the team and the culture, you're never going to get the results. And that's the hard part. So how do you build that team and that culture? You expose people to various areas that is going to make them be a little bit more proactive oftentimes. If it means they get that experience and they leave, my only ask is they speak well of us, because they might be the reference that points somebody else in my direction that we can hire them. I'd rather they were passionate about what they were doing and trying to move on and do more. Ideally, I want to provide that opportunity so they want to stay. Yeah, but you can't always do that.
That's true. You can't be everybody's whole career path.
No, right? We're not a jobs program, but I want to, the intern is funny to me because he's younger than my son. And it's weird to be hiring a kid that is the same age as your own, that you watched and tried to mentor and lead. And of course, it's your own kid. So they go the complete opposite direction. Dad doesn't know what he's talking about. So I'm going to go different. But at least I've got, a kid who's listening to me now, right? So I tell my son that part all the time, but it doesn't go over well. But the reality is I take all those interns just like that. I want them to have the leadership exposure with me and my leadership team. I want them to have the tactical exposure with the folks that are literally putting hands on keyboard and racking components. Because when they decide to take a job after they graduate and they go somewhere, I want us to be their first choice. I want them to be a part of that culture. And if I can't hire them, I want to keep in touch with them, because eventually there's going to be a spot open.
Yeah, that could change in the future, right? Yep. Yeah, it's funny. I was a sales guy for a company, and there was this woman in procurement. She was kind of tough, very rigorous in her expectations, but she was always clear, consistent. But man, she was tough. And sometimes I'd get frustrated having to, meet all of her standards and stuff. Fast forward a few years, she reports to me. And man, you know how much I loved working with her? Yeah. She was rigorous and tough, and she had exacting standards.
But you could trust her.
Yeah. I'm like, I know that she'll hold the line, right? And it was so great being on the other side in that relationship, knowing how she treated vendors and stuff. And I was in a position where I was responsible for managing that particular population of vendors.
Yeah.
And I never lost a second of sleep because she was at the helm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's that factor of you've got your person that it's the fire and forget type, but think about how she felt seeing you take that job.
Yeah.
Right. Because you were an investment for her.
Right. True.
So she put into it. And now, did that make her life better? Probably.
Yeah.
Because instead of getting a boss in that doesn't understand it and doesn't know the ways of the business and things of that nature, the relationships and how the inner team works, she grew you through that piece to make sure that you were ready for it. And I don't know that we do enough of that. You mentioned the older folks that sometimes have a problem with the younger guy coming in or younger girl coming in. That chief, Matt, he didn't have a problem with being twice my age. It was hey, this is the guy that I want to train to take on leadership roles 20, 30 years from now.
I've got 2 grown sons. One runs a small business and the other is an engineer. And they both have some friends that are really bright. And I was chatting with one of them recently. I'm fortunate that they live kind of close. I get to they don't invite me to all their things, but I get to hang out with them every once in a while.
That must be nice.
It is fun. And this one particular friend of one of my sons is really smart. And we were talking about how we use AI and how we're applying it in our business and your business and that kind of thing. And I thought, man, I'm going to be kissing my son's friends' asses before long. You know what I mean? These guys are smart. They're go-getters. They're ambitious. And they're they're going to be hiring people. They're going to be my customer or whatever. Right.
But I mean, and they're
it's
going to remember
kind of fun
that,
to get to that age.
Yeah. They're going to remember that though. And they're going to know who you are and how you take care of people. And they're going to want to, go to you because they know that you're going to get them the right folks that are going to, I mean, that's true. That's the networking piece that I love about, and that's kind of part of the reason of settling down here is you start building that network, you start building that trust, you start knowing who the people are. You and I met through Tech First. There's so many people involved in Tech First because it's just a great place to network.
I just had Melissa on the podcast the other day.
There you
actually.
go.
Yeah.
She was fighting me on it. She said she didn't want to do it. So good on you.
Oh, really?
But
she was a good sport.
Those professional type organizations, it doesn't always have to be about talking about work. It's that building that rapport so that when you do have that problem later on down the line. So you built that rapport with your son's friends so that when that mission need comes up, they're going to turn to you.
Well, you know what? With my sons first, nobody's a perfect parent, and I've definitely made some blunders, but I think, cheers to that. But I think they knew that I was serving them, and they know that now. And so being able to hang out with them and their friends, I'll never get a better award than that. Nobody's going to honor me with a plaque or a gift bigger than that. And the same is true, perhaps to a lesser extent or in a different context with your teams. You serve people, and if that relationship is still good when your authority doesn't matter, right? Like 10 years after you ever work together again, or 10 years after the last time you worked together, that relationship is still, a good one. It's healthy. It's happy. That's a big deal.
It is.
That's proof that you weren't just leveraging power, right? That you didn't just have the button that you could push that could mess up their life or make their life, but you were actually serving them.
Leaving the military, I mentioned it was hard. I won't forget, probably 2 months after I retired, kid who was a brand new lieutenant working for me, 20 something years ago, now a squadron commander, got issues with people and everything else. And he calls me for advice. And I'm like, trying to get you ready. I think it's only over the phone because it's like, you made a difference. You made an impact and they still come to you for advice. And it's good that your sons knew that back then. My son had no idea that I was looking out for him until he finally got to that point. And
I don't think they knew it back then. I think they know now that back then it was true.
Okay, that's good. What I mean? Because now he's like, now I get it. And his work ethic, his boss posted something on LinkedIn and I commented on it. He's like, oh, we love Colin. And it was just like, as a dad, to see it in a professional site like that, to say he's such a great part of the team, you're like, okay, we did it right. Because for me, especially for so many years, I don't want to treat my son like an airman because he's not an airman, but that's what I know. It's the leadership piece of what I grew up in was the military side.
Speaking of things, blunders, I made my kid do push-ups a few times.
There you go.
He disappointed me.
Yeah.
I don't know that it was all bad, but I was experimenting. My poor firstborn.
The first always has.
He was a guinea pig.
Yep. If I got him to mow the lawn, I was a happy camper. So
I didn't beat him up or anything. So I guess it could have been worse. But
what's
anyway.
funny is the second kid. I was the fourth. So the second kid always learns from the first.
Mm-hmm.
And they learn the stuff not to do, or they learn how to do it without getting caught. That was
my second kid was a little quieter. I'm like, is he just sneaky or what happened here? It's funny to reflect on the different personalities in the family. So I've got a kind of out of left field question for you. You're clearly thoughtful about how you lead. What are your thoughts on what's the most common blunder or the first thing that comes to mind when I ask you about something that people commonly do or a common mistake? What would be the thing that you would point out and say, this is the one thing you should be most careful not to do when it comes to leadership?
Listen, that's the biggest thing I can tell people, because I learned it the hard way. I'm sure everybody learns a little bit of that somewhere along the way. But if you walk into a room, and even if you're the new guy and you're trying to dig in by asking a lot of questions, sometimes the way you phrase the questions, it makes folks question themselves. It makes them think, is he asking it because he wants to know it? Or is he asking it because he doesn't think that I know what I'm doing? So I tend to get in and I listen a lot. Like, tell me about what you're doing. Tell me, the equipment you're working on, the role you provide. And I listen a lot. Now I might have questions, try and save them to the end if I can. Maybe I'll follow up with it, that night or a couple of days later. But I've found that, even personally, if somebody comes in and they start asking those critical, tactical level questions of why did you press W and not T, it makes you, well, should I have pressed T? I don't know. And you don't want to put somebody, on the edge like that. So I want them to know that I'm there to help them, and letting them talk, letting them present who they are and what they contribute. That to me is the only way of getting them to understand that they are a part of your team and you're a part of their team. And if you go in and all you do is talk, or my worst is, well, the last guy, or my last job. And I'm like, you can't talk in those things, because how often do you go from one job to another and it's the same thing? Right, it's never the same thing. Different people, different missions. It might be, topic wise. Yeah, I work in IT. I've worked in IT
general things,
but,
sure.
But it's never the same thing. So I hate the last job thing. That should be something that just gets stripped from your vocabulary for 6 months. Until you build up some knowledge of the way things are going in your current job, you gotta build that up before you can talk about your last job.
So what I hear you saying in all of that, not referencing the old context, not asking the question the right way without leading the answer or judging, and even just listening and asking as opposed to coming in and telling. What I hear across all of those comments is curiosity.
Sure.
And the importance of just not judging, not deciding, just seeking to understand.
If you're let's take that intern. If I wasn't the one who hired him or brought him in, and I just happen to be the new guy coming into the job, and he's been on the job a couple weeks longer than me, and I walk in and I say, hey, what is this you're working on? And then I just sit back and listen. How's that going to make him feel? He's going to feel like he's got the spotlight on him. He's the most important person in the room right then. The boss wants to know what he's doing because the boss thinks it's valuable. It makes them feel good about what they're doing. And you said, you started this out, work sucks. Sometimes work sucks, right?
Unfortunately, for a lot of people.
It does. But if you can help somebody feel good about what they're doing and embrace the suck, as we used to say, we're having a pool party in my backyard in a couple weeks. I'm inviting the entire IT team to my house.
Oh, that's fun. How big is
families. That? 117 people.
Oh, wow. That's a big party. So you're going to have a couple hundred people there.
Easily.
Wow.
And somebody asked me the other day, like, why would you do that? I'm like, do you work nights and weekends? Yeah, all the time. Because in our business, you don't want to impact operations during the day. That's when folks are making transactions, right? So they come in at night, log in, they're spending time away from their family. This is my way of thanking their family for letting their loved ones go and do that part right there. Because that's how the next week when they go and do that, they're like, okay, I get it. Your team's taking care of you, and they know what you're doing is important. But if all you're doing is talking and you're not taking care of the people, suddenly you just become that guy sitting on a pedestal up there that is so disassociated and removed from what's actually going on. You're probably not speaking to the reality of the situation.
I had a boss. It was my boss's boss, actually, hosted a little get together at his house, and I had to miss it for something. I had some critical thing going on with the family. And I mean, it might have been a wedding or a funeral or something. I forget what it was, but it was something big.
A good reason.
It was something big because I really wanted to be there. And I felt behind forever after that, like for the rest of my working experience there, because like everybody else got this chance to connect in a non-work thing kind of way. And I I don't know. I think I was still there for another year after that or whatever. And I the whole time thought, man, I wish I hadn't missed that party because it was such a valuable opportunity to have a disarmed connection with the village.
Just, I mean, that social setting provides such an opportunity to get to know who the people are that are working for you. That maybe you meet their wife and you realize that, the wife's also working a gig that sometimes is at night. Or maybe it's, somebody that's driving 45 minutes to get into work because they're dropping off their kid before they come in or something along those lines. So it's just so important for me. This has been our entire career. It was always you have something for the families so that they understand when somebody is working those extra hours. Because in IT, it's always going to be extra hours. I mean, that just happens. Stuff fails for me. We talked about my 20-year-old pickup truck. That's IT. When you drive something for 20 years, it's going to break. And in IT, we don't always replace things as often as we want to, because that's an expense. So we're there for the emergency when it does break. So I want them to know what they're doing is important, and I want them to feel valued.
What's it like doing IT for I guess I won't call it a bank. That would be insulting,
union,
right?
not a bank.
What's it like serving the members you serve, the credit union that you guys are enabling, equipping? Like, what's that like? Because you're new into that space. Well,
about 2 years now.
Yeah, several years new, but
it was an opportunity that I can't say enough about. Like we said, we retired here. We wanted to live here. I went to work for corporate America, Amazon Web Services. Great job, all in the cloud. And I've been doing cloud work for the last couple of years of my Air Force career. So it was cool to get back into that from the other side and still be a problem solver. But I sat at my desk at home, or I traveled a lot. I didn't have that team with me. So when the opportunity came up to lead a team again, I was like, yes, this is, we'll talk money later. I don't care. We just want to get into the fact that I want to have a team. And that team supports the community. So you ask what it's like at Wright-Patt. Well, I was the deputy commander of Wright-Patt. And every time we threw an event for our airmen, Wright-Patt Credit Union was right there at a table supporting my airmen.
Interesting.
So for me to go work with the people that were always my counterpart when I was running the base.
Yeah, they were part of your community already.
Exactly. So it was an easy button just to make the transition and say, this is what we want to do.
Yeah.
The members, we have a quarterly managers meeting that the CEO pulls all the managers into the room once a quarter. And it always starts with a story of how somebody impacted a member's life. And it might be the military side of me that, what we did back then felt like a cause and a calling and things of that nature. But when you hear about, how you helped somebody's grandfather because, he was being scammed and somebody had the wherewithal to say, hey, this doesn't sound right. Let's sit down and talk this through a little bit more and save some tens of thousands of dollars and fees that he just had no idea what was going on. Somebody that can't afford a car, but they need to get to work. And if you can't get to work, you can't afford a car. It's just, that circle right there. So I love what we do because it is so community based. It's just, Melissa and I were talking about it when she sent you to me was, what do you want to do? I like being in the community. I volunteered for the township zoning committee.
Did you?
For 5 years. My wife's like, 5 years? I'm like, this is a chance for me to give back to the community and understand what's going on and hopefully influence it so that it's a place I want to continue to live in.
Yeah. Can I take a really random detour and ask you about your woodworking work?
Yay!
Is that something you're interested in chatting about?
I'll always talk about woodworking.
Because I'm kind of curious about it, and it seems like you're something you're into. You said you did a couple podcasts on it too, right?
Yeah.
Like you have kind of a community of other craftsmen that you get into.
So my dad was a carpenter, so I've been building since I was yay high. And it was just always a fun thing. It was really good, moving 14 different houses. I could always fix stuff because
I was going to ask you how old your house is when you were talking about the renovations.
Yeah. The one we're in now is about 30 years old, a little over 30 years old.
Yeah, same here.
So it's the 1980s and the 1980s decor is strong.
Right.
House,
Nice. Some of that's cool, man. It's kind of cool again,
The pink seashell sink, that was like the first thing that needed to go.
We have a central vac in this place, man.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is like some old school futuristic stuff.
I have a central vac in my workshop. But
do you? I love it.
But yeah, it was, I enjoyed being able to make stuff, just the challenge. And for me, what I said was it wasn't doing Air Force stuff. So it was the complete disassociation from everything going on with the military side, because some days were great, some days were not so great. And when I was the deputy commander on base, there were a lot of bad days because it was during COVID. And that was just a hard time to run a base of 32,000 people. Yeah, keep them healthy, keep them safe, keep the mission running.
That's a tough last couple of years.
It was horrible. Oh wow. So I'd come home at night, and my wife would look me in the eyes, and she'd be like, "Why don't you go down to the mill We'll do dinner later, because she knew that was my, I literally call it sawdust therapy. It's a chance for me to just unwind and get down there. So after 14 houses, we were moving off base. She's a realtor, so I told her, you find the house and you pick what you want. The only requirement for me was I wanted a separate workshop. It wasn't a garage that she was going to park in. That was just going to be the workshop. So yeah, now I got the workshop, and it's unique because most of the stuff that I do is usually for friends or family, or I don't make any money off of any of it.
I was going to ask you, are you running a business, or are you just doing projects you want to do?
It's a business, because there are some that I get the random, online. Yeah. Hey, I'd love this. And
sure.
I've got the ability to CNC stuff. I've got lasers. I've got all the other tools I can build and ship. But last week it was, a couple weeks ago, it was a sign for friends that are an Army lawyer down in Texas.
Okay.
And she's leaving, and she wanted that. I had friends who had a friend who retired, and she wanted a T-38 trinket box. I'm like, for me, I don't like repeating stuff.
Yeah. So you're running a business, you have to get good at something, get all efficient at it. Yep. And then it's like, you're building widgets.
Carrie always asks, well, why don't you do one of the trade shows, or, the Heart of Centerville, and set up a booth? I'm like, then I've got to spend time making inventory.
That's right.
And for me, it's not about the inventory. It's about the passion of making something, my daughter's bedroom set, my wife's desk. It's the chance to make stuff that is going to stick around for a while, because I built it knowing the military was going to move it. So I made it so it was disassembled.
Interesting.
But yeah, again, it's literally my therapy. It's a chance for me. And, the first year in the job, I made small little cutting boards for my senior staff. And it was kind of the homage to them to say, hey, thanks for welcoming me into your family here. And this is what I do to keep myself sane. And now you're a part of my sanity type deal.
There was a CIO I knew years back. He gave a talk and said something during this presentation about mowing his lawn. And I don't know why, but it came up later when I was chatting with him about him mowing his own lawn. And he was made a lot of money, very successful, had a big home and everything. And I'm like, you mow your own lawn, huh? I'm surprised. And he said, well, I don't mow my lawn because it's the most efficient use of my time. It's the most satisfaction I get every week, because I spend an hour doing something. And then when I do it, I put the tools away and I look at it and it's done.
I did that.
and there's something really like mentally healthy about being able to look at your work and feel the satisfaction of it being done and done well.
Yeah. And the fact that it stands up and, people can look at it and go, he cares.
Yeah.
So, woodworkers, that woodworking community I've got, we joke about how we hide our mistakes really well, but my wife laughs at the amount of sanding that I do. I'm like, I go to the trade show and you put your finger across something, you can feel they didn't sand this beyond 120. I'm like, I go to 800. It's just one of those things that you're passionate about being quality.
120.
And then she drives the home show are the worsts.
Really?
Because she takes me to the home show and I'm walking around pointing out, like, I can't believe they put that angle there and the trim.
Yeah.
So she won't take me to those anymore.
I'm kind of a do-it-yourselfer wannabe handyman. I try things, and I'm good at a few of them. But I just like plumbed up a little extra hose up on the deck.
Nice.
I used a soft hose so I can get rid of it easily during the winter or whatever. But I have sat on that deck and just like looked at it from different angles. I mean, you would think I just painted the Mona Lisa or something, but that weird little 30-minute project gave me so much like, I've done a few big things like career-wise with my business and customers or whatever else, but for whatever reason, that thing
with my own two hands.
That's right.
Yeah. And then the worst part is, then you look at it and you're like, oh, that part is off by
I need
a
a shut off
16th of
right
an inch.
there. I just did that this morning. I'm like, I didn't put a shut off on that. I need to put that right.
And my wife's like, nobody's ever going to see it. I'm like, but I am.
Right. That's why, you know what? There's a few, I haven't hired out much because I like to do this stuff. There's a couple things I've been like, I'm not doing all that drywall sanding. And
amen.
And I let somebody else do it. And I love it so much better, so much easier, so much more consistently than if I had done it, then I'd see every flaw,
Yeah, the lawn mowing. I mowed my lawn for the first couple of years we're in the house.
Yeah.
And then there was a 16-year-old kid down the street. And my wife, God bless her, she's like, well, that's 2 hours that you're not in the mill because you're mowing the lawn. I'm like, sold.
So you got to pick your joys, right?
Supporting the 16-year-old so I can go out and make sawdust. I'm all in favor of building this young man up and supporting him.
So back to the credit union. When you think about that feeling of like, you step back, you're like, I did that. There's a lot of monotony. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of kind of grind and negotiation and compromise and stuff that
Mhm.
happens when you're in a senior leadership role and you're leading people and you're accountable to other executives and you're serving a very kind of exacting standard for a group of members in a customer base or whatever, that for which there's a lot of risks and a lot
Mhm.
of very pressing needs. So that's heavy. There's satisfaction that comes out of that stuff. I know some of those professional satisfactions, but what in the body of work that you do throughout a given quarter or whatever period, what comes closest to that? Like, I hung that piece on the wall or I put that furniture in the room. What comes closest to that kind of like I did that with my own two hands? I'm proud of that feeling.
So to me, it's never the tangible items. For me, it's the intangibles. I talked about the team and the culture.
Hmm.
My take on life has always been: you take care of the people, they'll take care of the mission.
Hmm.
And to me, taking care of the people doesn't mean spoiling them. It doesn't mean being easy on them. It's challenging them. It's holding them accountable,
Hmm.
because then they're gonna do what they need to later on. So when I get the pride is when people bring me a problem they've already solved,
Hmm.
because it used to be well, we'll run to him and let him solve it for us,
Hmm.
and at the wrong level. When people solve things at the lowest level because they're talking and communicating and working together to know that they're going to get it done the right way, and they're like, oh yeah, we took care of that. I'm like,
Hmm.
that's when I feel good, because I mentioned earlier the building the culture, building the team, helping them to have that foundation of communication and working together and collaborating. If you don't have that, you're not going to get the results.
Hmm.
And when I see results like that, where I mean, I don't mind them coming to me. That's great, but I don't want them coming to me the first chance unless it's so, driving that, something's down and, oh my God, if you don't make a decision, we're not going to be able to give money up. Okay, that's a problem.
Hmm.
But if it's hey, we don't think this is going to work, or we'd like to bring these two maintenance actions together, and we're going to put some extra time in the window because we want to work together to figure it out. I'm all for it,
Hmm.
because that, to me, I talk about my job. My job is not to put hands on keyboard. My job is to build that team,
Hmm.
and if I can help them start doing that now, then they grow into managers, and the managers grow into directors, and
Hmm.
eventually I'm going to retire for the second time and just make sawdust full time, and somebody's going to be the new VP of IT, and I'm going to pat him on the back and say, great job.
I love that. You just inspired a question I'm going to use with my team.
Uh-oh.
So we do our um, little check-in meetings,
Mm-hmm.
status meetings. And one thing it just occurred to me, one thing I've never asked my team is what have you done today that you're proud of? Right.
Amen.
And I love that you said that thing that makes you, well, this is what I heard anyway. You said that thing that makes you closest to that, like I built that piece of furniture feeling
Mm-hmm.
I did that with my own two hands. I really accomplished something here. That kind of fun little, yeah, we did it, is when somebody on the team comes to you and they're proud of something, right? I mean,
Exactly.
essentially somebody's only coming to you with the problem they solved if they're kind of bragging about it or they want a little affirmation for it or
My job's to make them successful,
yeah.
and
And
if
so
they,
when they come there and they're proud and they're
yep,
telling you you're proud of it, you did something to make them want to show off that, that
exactly.
success to you, right? But as a leader, what a great thought for it's like that's evidence that you've created a culture of people that are into what they're doing and
Yep.
proud of the work they're doing.
I don't. We talked the other day about the folks that come in. I don't have bad apples. I don't have folks that are grumpy. People enjoy working on that team,
Hmm.
and that's the passion of going in every day. Is
Hmm.
the chance to get in there and see those folks and see them, joking, and COVID changed that, right? You and I talked about this a while back. Is the environment, especially for IT, COVID made a significant negative hit, I think,
Hmm.
on the interaction piece and the
Yeah. We
collaboration.
all got isolated a
Yep.
little bit. Yeah.
So, and when you're doing it over the computer, and
Hmm.
sometimes you turn the camera off, and
Yeah.
sometimes
You're
you're
more isolated.
multitasking because you get
Yeah.
two windows open, right? So, seeing the folks working together, and understanding that it's not that I don't want to solve their problems, but if they can solve it at their level, together we can solve the next harder problem.
Hmm. What are you guys doing next? What's your next big challenge over the next year or two?
So we're knee deep in a cloud migration.
Okay.
So, back in 2019, the first time I got back here to Wright-Patt, was when the tornadoes rolled through for Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So welcome back to Dayton, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll open your eyes a little
Yep.
bit about co-locating and all
And
that stuff.
it flew right by the headquarters of Wright-Patt Credit Union. At that point,
Mhm.
they said we need to do a lot better job of making sure our data is consistently reliable. So
Mhm.
we're knee deep in that cloud migration right now. We've got cloud facilities that are dislocated, so we don't have to worry about one natural event taking out everything that we do.
Mhm.
To me, having spent time at Amazon, I'm a cloud guy natively. I love the cloud and what it can do. So now I challenge the team, and it's what are you doing now that you could do better in the cloud? What are you doing
Mhm.
now that is so inefficient and takes too many man hours where it could happen on its own in the cloud? And that's a major undertaking, and seeing the team embrace it.
Mhm.
Cloud's scary for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Uh, you know,
What do you think the biggest challenge is going to be for you guys?
so the earliest challenge was getting people to accept the fact we were doing it,
Yeah, just
because
what you
yeah,
just
it's that
mentioned,
scary
just the
part.
fear of the
I'm
unknown kind
losing
of
my
thing.
job. No, you're not losing your job. And if you're doing it right, you're upskilling people to
Yeah.
make them a part of the solution.
Yeah.
And we've invested heavily in training to make sure that they understand that you're my team and we're bringing you with us on this journey.
Mhm.
So that's the hardest part. The next hardest part is how long we wait and make changes,
Mm.
because this is a significant change. But I've been in the cloud for a while. It evolves,
Mhm.
and different capabilities and capacities come online that if you wait too long to adopt it, then suddenly you're behind the power curve. And helping people understand that it's not a one and done type scenario, but to continue to train, continue to learn, continue to push the envelope. I need them to do that, or we get stagnant.
Last thing I'll ask
Sure.
you as we kind of end the show here, when you think about, and when we got time for more if there's other stuff you want to hit,
Yeah.
but when you think about that challenge and how critical that work is over the next year or two
Mm-hmm.
for you guys, and that kind of twofold challenge of adoption and kind of mitigating the fear of having to transition and upskill, sounds like you've got a bit of a handle on that, and that's good. And that other challenge of having to move fast enough to kind of keep up with, like, if we do this over 2 years, are we late by the time we're done, right? What are you going to do about that? And how are you? I mean, you're going to solve that problem. I know you've thought
Yeah.
ahead. Like, what are your thoughts on how to win that fight?
So step one is training. Um,
Okay.
and it's hard on a team that is already so busy,
Mm,
because we're throwing a new IT service management platform in right now, and my mandate was 2 courses that went along with it for the entire IT team. It was
okay.
18 hours of training.
Okay.
That's
Wow.
that's not a small amount of training by any
Yeah.
means.
It's almost half of somebody's week, right?
Exactly. So we stretched it out over a month, but it was a lot of training. But to me, if you don't train them, they're not aware of looking for those opportunities.
Hmm.
And out of that training, I had folks coming to me saying, "Hey, we thought about using it for this, that, or the other."
Interesting.
That's what I'm driving after. Is the training is going to help them think more critically about the capability.
Hmm.
And so that's step one. Step two, as the credit union continues to grow, the team's beginning to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And we've gotten a bunch more, authorizations on the books this year that we're bringing
Mm-hmm.
some folks from the outside, and it's deliberate. I mentioned how proud I am of the team when we bring somebody up through the ranks.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, because that's how I grew up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brand new second lieutenant all the way through full board colonel. It was
Yeah.
somebody helped me get there, and I want to do that within Wright-Patt IT.
And we move people around in the
Yeah,
military,
yeah.
right?
Well, every 2 years, we
Right.
moved 5 times in 7 years at one point.
Yeah.
But to me, it's recognizing and acknowledging when you've got a need and you don't have the right fit,
Mm-hmm.
and filling that role uh, expeditiously, with a qualified individual that fits the culture.
Yeah. That.
And if you bring somebody in because they're an expert in something and they can do it really, but God, they're just not a good culture fit,
Yeah.
you then start eroding at that culture that I've
That's
been
right.
working on for 2 years, and I don't want to start over.
Something I pill that I swallowed this morning is a um, in some work I was doing is the idea that your culture is it's partly what you tolerate or your standard, I guess, and sometimes that can be culture, sometimes that can be performance.
Mm-hmm.
But your standard is kind of defined by what you'll like your
What you
lowest
tolerate.
level that you tolerate, right? So okay, I can get it, deal with that, I can deal with that, I can deal with that. But at some point, whatever level of compromise you will tolerate down to,
Mm-hmm.
that is your
Yeah.
either your culture or your performance level or some combination of the two.
One of the proudest moments as a dad is when my kid picked up a piece of trash walking by. And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Why'd you do that?" He's like, "Because you taught me that there shouldn't be litter." And I'm like, okay, I'm done. I just, you know what? I'm going to graduate you from high school 12 years earlier or something, right? No, it's just, but that's it. If somebody tolerates something in the workplace, whether it's a bad joke, which is inappropriate, or skipping a step because it's easier, that becomes your culture.
Yeah.
And when you start skipping those steps and when you start tolerating that stuff and it starts eroding at it, then you start losing good people. Because then they're like, oh, this isn't the culture it used to be. I don't want to be part of it anymore.
I've learned like 3 really valuable things today.
I'm surprised, honestly.
Can you want to just consult with me every month on leadership skills and such?
I'm here for you, man.
I appreciate you, Mike. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a good conversation.